All right. On this week's episode, we are talking about crafting the perfect employee experience. Our guest is Halima McWilliams. She's a certified HR leader, organizational storyteller, and culture evangelist. So thank you so much for being with us today to have this conversation.
Thanks for having me, Brian, and hello to everyone else this Wednesday afternoon.
Yep, absolutely. So let's get into it. We always ask the guests to tell us a little bit about themselves. So tell us about your background.
So I like to say I am the sum total of a lot of investments from my family, from my friends, and from the experiences that shaped me is who I am today. I think HR found me. I didn't necessarily find HR. Before I got married, my initials were HR. So it may have just been in my DNA. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I used to have a signature HR in HR, and upon me getting married, I told my husband he messed that all up for me. My brand was totally wrecked. So I definitely found my niche in HR. I think I had a desire to understand people. So my undergraduate degree is in psychology, worked in the field of HR, doing a number of different things from employee relations to diversity and inclusion consulting to project management and things like that. And so leading up to about 22 years and working in a number of different industries and sectors, HR and diversity, equity, and inclusion still continue to follow me, but I'm still passionate about it, and it gets me out of the bed every morning.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. So let's dive into the employee experience. From your perspective, what is the employee experience?
For me, I think it's three words. It's the moments that matter. Employee experience, I liken it to when you think about hospitality service. And it's not just if we have warm towels, if we have soap, if we have clean sheets and those types of things, that does help the experience. However, the moments that matter are the things that you really want to convey and you want an employee to feel. And you'll hear me talk about feelings and empathy and emotion through this entire conversation this afternoon. But the employee experience really is about dialing into the human. What does the human want? And what are those moments that are going to matter along the course of the employee journey? And so I'll talk about a few moments that matter. It's the pre-onboarding, it's the actual journey, it's reward and recognition, and then it's the exiting or offboarding. Those are those moments, and there are many other moments that matter, but those are those kind of fundamental moments that when you think about how does my prospective new hire experience our website? Are they able to apply on our website seamlessly? Can they apply from their cell phone? Do they still have to fax things in? Those are questions that help to shape the experience. Then as you swing into, we've hired the candidate. And I always think about recruiting as kind of that courting or dating phase. Many times, and some people may have heard about, you meet the representative for the first 60 or 90 days when you're dating someone. And then as soon as about day 91 happens, there's a flip of the switch and you're like, well, wait a minute, what happened?
Who did I hire?
For me, who did I hire? So the same thing organizations are responsible for, in that when we're courting talent and thinking about what we are selling, because we are selling our organization and what we're telling them, does that fall flat on day one, or is it elevated upon them getting to the organization day one? And so those are those moments that matter, because the thing is that we're affecting people's lives when they come and make a decision or a choice to join our organization. So we have to be responsible in making sure that we're crafting and designing experiences and moments that matter, but that are also the truth. We can't tell you one thing and then it's something else. That's not the truth.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to make sure that you're aligned to your value proposition.
Correct. Correct, correct, correct. So those are those couple of moments. Like I said, you got your pre-boarding and then your onboarding, and then you think about other moments that matter. One of the things that we do at the organization that I'm a part of, Corrigan, it sounds, very, that's nice to do, and it is, but it's much more beyond what the actual act of it. So we have new parents, that have babies, adopt, all of those types of things. We not only send a blanket with the monogram name of the new baby and things like that, but our intention, but our practice is to also make that phone call. Hey, Mom, how you doing? Hey, Dad, how's it going? Just having that very human conversation, because this is something that matters to them. Everybody believes that they have the cutest and smartest baby in the world, and we want them to believe that, but we also want to be just supportive behind that, so that they know, we know that you are a valued person while you're here, but you're also a valued person while you're away. And we're excited about, your family growing or the addition that you've made. So those are those moments that matter throughout the journey. And then when you think about exiting and offboarding, people are going to leave you. At Corrigan, we have a lot of people that boomerang back, though. They got to go out and see what's out in the big bad world, and then they come back and say, it was great here. We know, we were waiting on you. But we were waiting on you to come back. But we want to make sure that as people are leaving, that we leverage the fact that they can be advocates and allies for us. People don't remember what you said, they remember how you treated them.
Yep.
So that's important. And that's what you can integrate and embed and keep top of mind when I say empathy. And empathy, as you think about the design thinking process, empathy is the first place you have to start in regards to, as you know, in user experience and customer experience, the personas. So the persona that usually HR is most concerned about is the employee persona. But you also have to segment that into, you got seasoned professionals, you got new parents, you got, new grads who are coming out of school who've never selected benefits a day in their life. So how do we tailor and customize experiences and opportunities for the audiences that we serve? And is it going to take work? It is, because there is no one size fits all. Nor are you going to be able to answer each and every person's customized needs. You can definitely make a valiant effort to do so.
Wow. That was a great response. So, Halima, we talked about this before, but the most popular question surrounding employee experience is, how can you link employee experience to business performance, right? What is that relationship?
I think the relationship really is tied to, of course, most organizations want to know how can we make money, how can we save money, but usually how can we make money? And what organizations really have to understand is that there are three things that are going to affect and help to, I'll say, shore up the business case or to measure it. It's within I call it your mood, your tude, and your food. If we can help to create opportunities and experiences and allow people's mood to be affected by the tools that we give them when they're there, and make sure that they're set up for success, again, customizing that experience, that affects their mood. If they're in a good mood, I promise you, you're going to get the best out of them. Their attitude is going to be affected, and we can either help shape that in a good way or a bad way. And what I mean by that is it always hot in here? Is it always cold in here? Where is the restroom located? How many break rooms do we have? That affects your attitude, because if I'm constantly wrapped up in my blanket, or if I'm having to go get a cup of water every 5 minutes, that affects my attitude, which in turn affects my performance. So those are things we got to think about. And then lastly, your food, and not the food we eat, but the food by way of how are we as an organization nourishing our employees with growth and development opportunities. So if we, again, make those investments in our employees so that they can get the tools that they need, the training that they need, the opportunities that they need, and then use that training and investment that we made in them turn that around into practical application, profitability is always going to be positively affected.
Yeah, yeah. So Halima, I have to ask this question because obviously you bring your soul to work. The other layer surrounding the employee experience is the employee. So what's your perspective for how people can really bring their whole self to work?
I think part of it, and it was a realization that I had to come to over a course of time. It wasn't a overnight, it was an overtime revelation or decision to, you got to be okay with yourself. You have to be and recognize I am enough, and the unique skill set, the unique background that I bring to this part of the story is relevant, it's important, and I can make a contribution. A lot of times organizations are looking for cultural fit, and usually that is code word for we need you to get in here and do it as we do it, even though we say we're hiring for the best fit. And the best fit may sometimes mean that the things we've been doing are going to be challenged.
Yep.
And so we, as the person bringing in something that may be a little bit new, we have to be confident in our position that what I'm bringing could be of value. Now, of course, how you do it and the way you do it is important, but being okay bringing that level of uniqueness to the table, you are doing a service to yourself because you're showing up. And again, that goes back to productivity and profitability. If I'm giving you my best, then all ships rise. And if everyone decides to come into work and give their best, the profitability line is going to go up.
Awesome. All right, so we have a question from Jackie. Jackie, I'm going to unmute you, and we're going to bring you into the conversation. Jackie, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, go ahead. You had a question?
Yes. So my question is, and this is probably something that I deal with a lot, but how do you maintain or drive a positive employee experience during time of business transformation? And that could be things around reorganization, divestitures, outsourcing.
Yeah. That's a great question. Yeah. I think that's a great question, Jackie, because of course the thing that we know is that change is constant, but change is an experience too. And so part of that change, and it really depends on not necessarily what the organization has always done, but making a commitment that during these times of change, uncertainty, or volatility, that there is a commitment to ensure that transparency and trust is established and repeated and expected throughout this change. And I think part of it has always been telling people exactly what's going on to the extent that you can, and also preparing them for, you know what, there are certain stones that we don't even know to overturn just yet. And so I think if you come from a very honest platform, people can be more forgiving versus coming from a place of, tight to the vest, closed-lippedness, so to speak. If you allow for the transformation and the change and the employees to be brought along, and that doesn't mean having, stand-up huddles every single day, but there needs to be a regular feeding of information, then that can help to ease anxiety and allow people to feel like they're being brought along. And it also can open up opportunities to dialogue and dial into how employees are feeling, because sometimes those who are at the decision-making table are anticipating one thing, and really the employees are experiencing or feeling a different way. So it allows those conversations to happen because there's a regular cadence of communication.
Yeah. Thank you, Jackie, for asking that question. Is there anything else?
No, thank you.
Awesome,
no problem.
Awesome. Halima, I want to talk about storytelling. So you have a very strong background when it comes to storytelling. So tell us about your background and tell us, how can organizations enhance enhance their performance, enhance engagement through telling stories as well?
Yeah, I do. I do have an interesting background with storytelling. My mother is a public school teacher back in St. Louis, Missouri, my hometown. And she's been doing that for 30 years. But in addition to being a school teacher, she also is what they call a griot. And what a griot is a storyteller in West African culture who is kind of tasked with or has the special gift of passing down oral history. And so ever since I can remember, we were told stories 3 to 4 times a week at bedtime. It could have been African folklore, it could have been popular culture, but we were told a story. In addition to that, I also am a product of over 90 years of consecutive family reunions combined of both my mother and father's side. My granny, along with 2 great aunts, 60 years ago this year actually, decided that in order for us to family and to pass down history, we needed to have a family reunion. And so during those family reunions, every Sunday, because the family reunion is 4 days, every Sunday from about 6 to 10 o'clock, we gather poolside, we order pizzas, and it's about 100 and some odd people that are there. We have the elders tell us stories. And they tell us stories about either when they were growing up or, yep, this is my big cousin, but I live with big cousin, or I got shipped up to Detroit because of this, that, and the other. So those are those things that we never knew. Or sometimes we hear about, some of the tragedies that happened because the core of my mother's side, they started off in Arkansas. It was 12 of them. So some of them went to work so that others could go to school. So those are those things that in order to know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. So thinking about the organization and them telling stories, one of the things that Corrigan is a market leader in is what we do work in regards to workplace strategy and change management along with our branded environment. And in our branded environments, that space, it really is Corrigan and that team going in and working with organizations to help them tell their story in a way. Some of it is visual. It could be timelines on a wall. It could be the graphics within a TV stand. It can be a number of different ways to weave in that story. But I go back to the sense of belonging. The storytelling is important because as we think about employees when we're courting them and then when they join, they want to feel connected. Stories are what connects you to the organization, not necessarily the paycheck, not necessarily the benefit. It's the humanity that connects us to wanting to be a part of and to stay a part of the organization. So storytelling has been and will always be a part of what I do.
Wow. I want to talk about the moments that matter because I think that's critically important. So if you're an HR organization or any department really, what tactical steps can they take to really start identifying those moments that matter in the employee journey?
Yeah, I think part of it is, number one, to eating the elephant one bite at a time. I think about one of the things that we use on my team is this employee journey infinity symbol. And so there are about 10 big moments that matter on that infinity symbol. Now, if we tried to tackle all 10, we would be there 24 hours a day, and by the end of it, we wouldn't like each other. So we have to get a new team to usher the moments that matter in. So what we've decided to do is to tackle it from a place that probably will give us the most return. That's the onboarding and offboarding. Those are those 2 components where we know we have work to do, but also that we can get a great return if we make some very simple transitions. One example that I think that we're focused on right now is our offer letter. Upon joining the organization about 10 months ago, I got my offer letter and then, of course, coming in, look at the offer letter. Sure, it's an offer letter, but it didn't convey our story. It didn't convey the warmth of our organization. Just yesterday, Corrigan celebrated 81 years in existence. But our offer letter doesn't say that. And not to say that it needs to say that piece of it, there was nothing that represents that we are a market leader, that we dominate in certain sectors. How do we differentiate that? And the energy and the steam that we gave in regards to the recruiting and courting process that needs to still follow through in this offer letter process. So we are in the process of actually redesigning that so that not only is it just the normal legalese, but that there's also a total rewards component that is a part of that. So people know that when they join, you're not just getting a check, you're getting an experience. You're getting something that can take care of you and your family. So that is definitely one place, is deciding where to start and then sticking with it.
Now Halima, what's your perspective on getting the rest of the organization on board, right? So if you're in HR and you're kind of co-creating this employee experience, the employee is going to interact with other leaders on a day-to-day basis. Like, how do you make sure that everyone is aligned on what that experience, what the employee experience is, and their role and how they contribute to that?
I think what's important there, Brian, is that, part of the human experience is creating opportunities for human interaction. I think about pulse surveys and annual census, full census surveys, all of those are great. And depending on the size of your organization, that may be what you're beholden to just because of the scale of your organization. But if you can, again, be intentional about creating human interactions to gather that information and then to create diverse teams, be it in focus groups or leveraging, if your organization has employee resource groups, and allowing certain people to come in and bring in their inputs and insights, that's going to allow people to experience and help to shape the employee experience. It's one thing to be told what to do. It's another thing to be a part of what's happening.
No, that absolutely makes sense. So we spoke about a number of things. What's the number one takeaway that you want to offer to someone listening to this conversation?
That the employee experience that you design or you're tasked with or challenged with designing, be it for an organization or even if you're a consultant supporting an organization, it is like a thumbprint. It's like a thumbprint. It's going to be unique to that organization. And as much as we see a lot of the organizations that have all the fancy bells and whistles, and there are a lot of good organizations, Airbnb and some of the other tech companies that really have taken a very hard pitch into the employee experience space, and it has done wonders for them. And there's not to say you can't take nuggets away from that, but you have to ensure that the experience that you are designing is specific for the organization that you are a part of. It has to be a representation of the values of that organization. So it's like trying to adopt someone else's way of how they do family when your way is completely different. Your family may be made up of 2 dads and 3 moms or whatever that looks like. And that's okay, because that's how you defined it. Where someone else's family may be a husband and a wife. Me and my husband, we're family. That's how we define it. So that matters in regards to ensuring that as much as best practices are important, you have to do what works for you.
Awesome. Halima, that is the best way to conclude this conversation. Hey, Halima, thank you so much for being with us today. And those of you who are on the call, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. This concludes the webcast.
Thanks so much.